Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Star Citizen Alpha 3.13 is the next major Star Citizen patch cycle, with its targeted release date for live being the end of March 2021. So what can we expect from the patch's release? What events could we see during that patch cycle? And what could be the patch's major gameplay focuses? The first thing we have is the Evocati Phase. This is going to be relatively soon. This is an early test with around 2,000 hand-chosen backers and testers, known as the Evocati, also known as the ETF Evocati Test Flight. Expect to see this early to mid-March, this sort of Evocati phase, or not see it. And what I mean by that is that this build, this Evocati build, is always NDA'd, non-disclosure agreement. So Evocatis, such as myself, can't talk about the specifics of the patch we are testing or record content on it and share that. So you might see leaks from naughty people though. However, I suspect that at some point Cloud Imperium will look at trying to close off some of the leaks if possible. From my point of view, I'd actually be quite happy if Cloud Imperium went, there's no NDAs, there's no non-disclosure agreements with Evocati. Woo! Just talk about it. Maybe embargo it, so you're not supposed to make video content on it or something, if there's some people that could complain, but I don't know, I like the freedom of information. The next phase is the PTU phase, which goes in waves. Wider PTU, first wave PTU, there's lots of different terms for this, so once the patch has progressed to a point in Evocati where it's somewhat playable or requires greater stress testing, it basically goes to first wave PTU. This build is embargo free, so you can talk about it freely and look at the patch notes and make content and play it. Well, you can play it if you're in First Wave PTU. So this is restricted to RSI subscribers, Concierge, and Evocati. They then open it up to wider and wider PTU with a second phase and then an open PTU phase, which is typically done within the few days leading up to the live release. So both during the Evocati and the PTU phases, you're not going to have all the content to the patch typically. There's going to be more that patch has to offer, and that's especially true now with dynamic events that they've got planned for the game. But also, basically they add bits throughout the test phases so that they can test certain bits, they can focus on certain bits, potentially to minimise elitism and leaks. But that said, there's always a bit of drama now during the PTU phases, as content creators typically get access to like the new ships that they might release with a patch during the PTU phase, and they hadn't necessarily bought them, and people that bought them are supposed to get them at the earliest possible stage, but it's a PTU phase, not everyone has access to PTU phase even, so there's a bit of back and forth and a little bit of drama I see on forums regularly with that. However, during the PTU phase, the game is still buggy, and features can still get cut or become blockers for the live build. So blocker for the live build would cause delays, and because they went, we need to fix this before it goes live. So although the target for the live release is at the end of March, it can be delayed by a week or so based on blockers. When the patch goes to live, there will be a flyable ship sale, so that's anything that's new in the patch, typically. So here we have the Tumbrel Nova Tonk, or tank, based on your pronunciation of that, and also planned for the 3.13 patch cycle is the Starlifter, Hercules Starlifter C2 and M2. Now, they're supposed to be part of a 3.13.x patch, at least as far as we're aware, the Starlifters, so not the initial deployment. Bear that in mind. I would still expect them to go on sale when the patch goes live, and it's possible that magic has happened and they could make the 3.13 launch, but again, that would have to be if the Star Citizens aligned. We might see some other ships and vehicles that are yet to be officially announced in the patch as well. They do like to do straight to flyable things where they go, hoo, 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 we've got a sneaky ship which we're going to put in, hoo, hoo, hoo. So things that have been rumoured for a while are the 400i, Xi'an cargo ship, mobile refinery. We could see something like that here. There's a lot of ground-focused gameplay in this patch, so maybe some form of interesting vehicle. The 3.13 patch cycle ends when 3.14 is planned to be released at the end of June. And during this 3-month period between the April to the end of June, that's 3.13. And it's going to be hosting various events, one of which we know to be Fleet Week at the end of May. This is one of the biggest events for Star Citizen each year, especially financially, and for people that want to pick up ships now. It combines like a free fly with the ability to view and rent military combat and support ships for free at an expo, and it's a bit different from the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which is for more ships. This event focuses much more on the combat orientated sort of stuff. Last year, this was held at Lorville on Hurston, but I would expect it to be at Microtech this time. Not necessarily, but probably. There was also last year an event going on above in the sky. I suppose it depends on what side of the planet you're on, if it's above you or not, because it could be underneath you. But the UE Navy were flying around between the planets and space stations in-game in Javelins and Idris capital ships and a load of military fighter escorts with fireworks going off and military docks added to stations so they could come into port. And this had players realising that they could steal these ships. It also meant they realised they could fight them. And it was an awesome first look at sort of like these capital ships combat ready. They were pretty derpy and sort of like some cool fleet battle type stuff that you might be able to do in the future. It was a happy accident for capital ship combat for sure, and was really an awesomely fun little event. And you see some of this in the last few months. A lot of the coolness from that, a lot of the capital ship combat stuff has come into the game now, and I'm not sure if that was intended to come into the game yet, or if it's because of Fleet Week and they went, actually, let's put it in. So these sort of events do push gameplay into the game potentially sooner than it should be, or they wanted it to be, or at least change priorities, if you see what I mean. Now, I happen to know that during Fleet Week, they wanted to do a bit more last year than they actually did, and some bits were cut. So they wanted to have ships flying down into the atmosphere at Lorville on Hurston, and doing flybys and doing fireworks there, and like doing smoke out of them, I think, as well, like in the promotional media made for the event. And this year, Cloud Imperium are really focusing on making interesting events anytime they get an excuse to, and they're going to really want to try and push the ship out when it comes to this sort of thing, because they are hugely profitable marketing exercises, especially with free flies, especially with the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo and Fleet Week. Those are two major millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars sort of events for them. So anything they can do to push the boat out makes sense. So Fleet Week's typically over a week or two, starts at the end of May. Bear that in mind. Now, there may well be another event during the patch cycle, or even as part of Fleet Week, and I would expect them to separate them though. The one we've heard about is the Nine Tails lockdown. So think similar to Xenothreat in some ways, because Xenothreat was the first dynamic event we had, although you could argue that it was Fleet Week last year. It depends on your interpretation. Cloud Imperium seemed to define it as Xenothreat, but the Nine Tails are a pirate organisation in the standard system, and they're expected to... from the rumours that I've heard and the sort of expectations we have of this, they're supposed to be flying around the standard system as a big fleet, as a sort of like big raid, in a similar way to what the UE Navy did for Fleet Week. So they might lock down planets and stations. There might be lots of combat going on in those areas. You might have to go and dislodge a whole fleet. People should be able to join, just jump in and join in. So you can do it at whatever scale you want. Bring a big org and deal with them, or you could just come by yourself, start dealing with them and hope that lots more people turn up, is the idea. It'd be interesting to see if they actually assault the space stations there, or literally take out the defences and then lock them down. This sort of name implies that they will lock an area down until you deal with them, but they might move around. There might be other missions. There might be additive missions to this as well, where they contribute to... You might be able to take out some of the supply routes to the pirate fleet or whatever that will then weaken them, maybe. I know that they want to push things like that into the game. I'm just not sure if they're at a stage where they can do that yet. But with how good some of the Xenothreat stuff was, I'm pretty excited for it. Now, hopefully they don't do the same mistake that they did with Xenothreat, which was, obviously it was delayed heavily because it wasn't tested enough and just wasn't ready. When the event did go live, it was too short. It was far too short. So hopefully lessons learnt here. I was told by some people at Cloud Imperium as well that with events like this, and the events they've got planned this year, they're going to be wanting to test new mechanics that have come online in the patches that have just been published, as well as pushing the boundaries of what they can do with the tech at any given time. So yeah, there's work going into repair and additional mission areas like engineering sections of stations. I suspect that maybe some of these missions might make use of that. And there's push and pull mechanics, ship to station docking, spawn closets. Maybe these will all play an important part for events in the 3.13 patch cycle and beyond. We'll have to wait and see. Well, they definitely play an important role beyond. So that's what to expect from the patch cycle in regards to events and patch plans for 3.13. We will take a look at the latest plans for 3.13's features in greater detail, one by one, do a bit of a deep dive later this week once we have the roadmap update. That should then provide us with a load more information on what's cut and what's sort of else is new to the patch. Basically, we're coming down to the go, no go for each individual patch feature at the moment. And later on this week, it's like going into March, they'll be going, these features will not make it, these will make it, and these might make it. To me, it looks like with the Hercules Tonk spawn lockers will allow for NPCs to spawn, despawn in stations and structures, push-pull for moving boxes, updated caves, and mounted guns. We might see gameplay and missions focused on FPS and ground gameplay, and ground combat stuff. Also, it's possible that they will relax the armistice zones for FPS play in 3.13 as well, so we'll have to see if that's true. And that is a hunch rather than a confirmation, so bear that in mind. Something else that I would expect to see is ships that are currently not purchasable in-game, but are flyable as of 3.12 to likely be purchasable in-game with 3.13. Though, with things like the Mercury Star Runner, it's also possible that Cloud Imperium will want to wait until that's implemented, because the Crusader ship shop and the right place to be able to purchase the Mercury Star Runner would be there, but that's in 3.14. We'll have to wait and see what's going on there for sure. It's possible that it will be rentable before that. It's possible it will be temporarily available in a different ship shop. One of the things that I'm hoping for the most is that they get the economy and cargo trading solved, so that we can buy and sell more readily at stations without a load of problems. And one of the things that has been suggested is that we might see the initial implementation in 3.13 of sort of time and fee-based loading and unloading with cargo. And that'd be great if it lands here, or docks here, as it were. And it sort of makes sense that it might. But what do you think? Do you think that's plausible? Do you play in the PTU builds when they're available? Or do you prefer live builds? Or is Star Citizen just not in a state for you to want to play yet? You're just sort of watching it. And when these major patches come out, do you play for a few hours like as a tourist and go, oh, wow, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, and I'll be back in 3 months' time? Is that the sort of thing you do? Or do you play loads with your org? What events do you think we could see in the coming patches? Do you think 3.13 is going to be a great patch cycle? Or, yeah, does Star Citizen need a load more work? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway, and February is no different. This month is for a Mercury Star Runner. It's a multi-role ship, but also a solid data and cargo runner, and flyable now in-game. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during a month. Details below. I'm also a massive shill for NordVPN. If you are looking for a VPN service, and you should, then NordVPN acts as a fleet of ships protecting your data from prying eyes while also providing privacy like a ship would. Enjoy the interwebs without borders, securely and safely. Use the links below for discount. I can't promise it will make your life better, but I can imply that. Also, there is Game Glass. Do you have a touchscreen device that you want to use as a diegetic controller or interactive panel for Star Citizen and other games? Check out Game Glass. It's free for life for the basic version, and you can buy additional shards or functionality or subscribe for more as well. A special thank you for everyone that goes the extra mile to become a channel member or Patreon, as well as just liking, subscribing, or sharing these videos. If you would like to further support the channel, then please consider using the YouTube join button below my videos and becoming a BoredGamer channel member. You'll get some exclusive content each month, as well as badges that appear in the comments section of videos and emotes that you can use and all that sort of jazz. Thank you so much for checking out my content. You take care, and I hope to see you in the verse.